So just to explain real quick what the buyback program is, of course, for borrowers who are pursuing public service loan forgiveness and were in the SAVE program and then subsequently entered in the SAVE forbearance, in real time right now, they're not getting credit for those. So if you look at the PSLF tracker, it's showing as ineligible months right now, right? So your last, all the way back till June probably shows ineligible, ineligible, ineligible. You're not getting credit towards PSLF in real time. However, the buyback program does allow you to qualify to buy those months back based on what your payment would have been at that time, based on whatever program survives. But you can't buy them back until the months that you're buying back bring you to 120 qualified payments, right? So, for example, if you're 5 years into the program, you have 60 qualified months, and you've been in the SAVE forbearance for 20 months now, for a year and a half and change, then you would have 70 months of qualified time if it wasn't for the SAVE program. Once you get to 100 qualified payments, then you can buy back the 20 that you're waiting for to bring you up to 120 once you're approved. So that's how buyback works. So you can't apply for buyback until you put 10 years in, but if you have, then you can request to buy back those months as long as those months bring you to 120 once they're approved. So you have to wait and apply for it later. Now, here's the issue with buyback. The buyback program still exists, and it made it through the big beautiful bill. I'm surprised. I thought that the current administration would cancel it. They did not. However, what they've done is their MO is, which instead of canceling it, they're just choking it off, and essentially starving it, so that it's processing at a snail's pace. So I think last year I was telling people, somewhere in the summer and fall, buyback is now starting to work again, but it's taking about 9 months before you're approved. I put that processing time now well over a year, and the reason for that is that for every one application that's processed in buyback, 5 or 6 are received, right? And every month that goes by, you have a greater number of people who are approaching that 10 years, and so the queue just gets bigger and bigger. The backlog just keeps growing exponentially on buyback. So buyback stops making sense once the length of time it takes to get the buyback or get approved for it exceeds the number of months you need to buy back, right? Now, an example of where you might want to bank on the buyback is if, let's say, for example, for physicians, if you were a resident making 60 or 70,000 a year during the SAVE injunction, so your payment would have been based off of that, $300 or $400 a month. But now you're an attending making $300,000 a year, and your payment would be several $1,000s per month, making payments going forward. The buyback would actually save you some money, right? Because you buy back those months and get credit for them based on your residency income. So if you had a much lower income during that time, then buyback, there is, especially if you need 20 months to go, certainly apply for it. Everybody who is ready to apply and has reached those thresholds, work 10 years, apply for buyback, but don't put your hopes in it. And if your payment's not, your lump sum that you have to pay to buy those months back is essentially going to be similar to what your monthly payments are anyways. Just keep making payments and you'll probably get to 120 payments before you get approved for buyback. Because I'm assuming now it's going to take in the years, 1 or 2 years before those people are approved. Now, this is for people who are on pace to hit 120 or work 10 years during this current administration, right? So theoretically, if we have a different administration, if a Democrat takes over for the next term, then the buyback program, federal student aid might be restaffed, and they may be able to handle the volume and expedite the approval of those programs. So borrowers on pace to be forgiven after 2029 might find that buyback works great. But every month that goes by in this current administration, buyback just gets worse and worse. So the program's still there, but it's almost worthless right now, with the exception of those people. Another example of people who are really depending on buyback are those who can't wait to quit their job, right? They're working a nonprofit or government agency job that they really causes them stress and or maybe even money. They're taking quite a payment cut for it. For those people, they may just take the risk get to 120, submit the buyback, and then quit their job and then just hope for buyback to eventually allow them to buy it back on the and get forgiven. That'll allow them to quit because they don't need to work anymore, nonprofit stuff after that. So that's essentially, again, I know I'm doing a long-winded answer here for you. The other thing I want to mention about buyback is when you do submit buyback, you have to first do another employment certification form when you're sure you worked at least 10 years, at least 3,650 days or whatever it is. And then once that's approved, then you can submit the buyback request after that. When you submit the buyback request, you'll the system, if you're a day short of that 10 years, it'll tell you don't have enough eligible payments yet. So if that's the case, you might have to do another employment certification a month later and then submit the buyback after that once the system thinks you have 10 years in. So it's kind of fussy that way.